Yardney's brutal property truths. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee. I want to have a look at this article written by Michael Yardney. Now, he's an author, property investor. He's a property guy, everyone. Okay? Just think of that. When you think of him, property guy. You can't go wrong. So let's have a look at these 17 brutal truths about property investing no one else will ever tell you. I thought, okay, we got to have a look at this one. This will be interesting. What's Yardney going to tell us? So, today I'm not holding back. He's not holding back, just like Russia in Ukraine. Paching. I'm going to tell you some... I shouldn't joke. I'm going to tell you some brutal truths about property investing. You'll learn some of these things. Some of the things that can go wrong. You'll learn about the frustrations of being a property investor. And you'll learn some of the ways in which slick marketing can lead you astray. But stick with me, it's not all negative. So, understanding what can go wrong is one way of making sure things don't go wrong, and you can have the success a small group of property investors enjoy. The problem is, most people who get involved in property investments don't develop the financial freedom they're after. Statistics show that 50% of new investors sell up in the first 5 years. Wow, I didn't realize it was that high. I mean, you've got to have a stomach for it. Most investors never get past their first or second property, and only around 21,000 Australians own 6 properties or more. What are you doing, guys? Come on. Didn't you see? Every Macca's worker earning $5 an hour can get into multiple properties. This is the thing, it's not that easy. I think the one advantage of property is that it is the easiest way for you to get money from the bank, to borrow huge amounts of money into this investment. Imagine trying to get access to the same amount of money at the same rate for a business, or even to invest in shares. It's not as easy, and it won't be as cheap. In other words, less than 1% of investors ever succeed in building a substantial property portfolio. Now, this is not the type of information most people tell you about when you first get started, is it? No, we don't. I never see that when all the advertisements appear, on YouTube. Here's my property portfolio. If you've got 60 grand, that one guy, I'll tell you how to get in a property. All the people selling you their courses and their schemes and their systems. That's probably because many of the people you speak with, such as agents or buyer's agents, are trying to sell you something. Sometimes it's a property, in other cases it's their services. So this is my attempt to redress that balance a little bit and share 17 brutal truths about property that you don't often come across. Despite what some people will tell you, property investment isn't easy. But it is simple. Now, that isn't a play on words. What I'm trying to say is that if you do what most property investors do, you'll get the same results as most property investors get, and that's not pretty. However, you'll be heading in the right direction if you understand the following truths about investing in real estate. Number 1, property markets go through cycles. Over the long term, the value of well-located residential real estate increases, but there are times every property cycle when values stagnate, sometimes for several years. Now, I put a poll on my channel, and we'll jump over here and have a look at that because I think it's quite relevant. What would you do if housing fell 30%? I did it 4 days ago. 2,500 people voted. 5% would sell, 53% would buy, and 42% would hold. Now, there's demand for property here in Australia. That's why we're all obsessed with it. That's why people want it. So ignoring the fact that we're in a system where the government will intervene to prop up property, there's political will to do it. Look at that number. And we're talking a 30% fall. That's still not going to be affordable for a lot of people. But look at that demand. I mean, think about it. How many of you would find some money or have money that would allow you to jump in? So, there are short periods when the value of your properties will fall a little. A-grade homes and investment-grade properties are less volatile. But at times, even the value of these properties fall, occasionally for several years in a row. That's what I'm thinking we'll see. I'm thinking we will see if we have a correction or a slowdown in the market, you may get a 10% cut and they may be stagnant for some time. But we've got 200,000 new people coming into Australia, and generally Australia is still a pretty nice place to live, everyone. I wonder how many Canadians will want to be living here. You need a significant amount of money to invest. The truth is, you do need money to invest in property, probably more than you think. If you don't have the financial discipline to save a deposit, then you shouldn't be borrowing money to get involved in property. There you go. There's a harsh truth. I wonder what Yardney thinks about the 2% government guaranteed house deposits, or the 5% government guaranteed house deposits. I mean, he's right. It is harsh. You need to save up, and to do it, you got to make sacrifices. That's why I'm not so worried about the whole mortgage stress thing. You know, hundreds of thousands of people will be at mortgage stress because that's based on 30% of your income. How many people would technically be considered in mortgage stress just going through the process of saving up for a bloody deposit these days? Oh, what? It's only 30% of our income. Oh, that's easier than the 50% we've been forced to save to get into property. 3, take advantage of it takes the average investor 30 years to become financially independent through property. 30 years. While you can get rich through property investment over the long term, it's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It takes most investors 30 years to develop financial freedom through property. So, many investors waste the first 10 years making mistakes and learning what to do, not to do. The next few years are taken up selling underperforming assets and getting their financial house in order. Then it takes 2 or 3 good property cycles to become wealthy through property. Many of us think we are smarter than the experts and look for shortcuts, but the only consistently certain shortcut I know is getting the right mentors early on in your journey. 4, saying I'll be fearful when others are greedy, and I'll be greedy when others are fearful is much easier than doing it. Yeah. I mean, that's right. Most investors are overly optimistic during booms when they should be cautious, and most pessimistic during downturns when they are surrounded by opportunities. 5, no one really knows what the property market will do in the short term. While in the long term, our markets are driven by fundamentals, in the short term, human emotions and crowd psychology play havoc with the best laid forecasts. 6, real estate investment is a game of finance with some properties thrown in the middle. Strategic property investors buy themselves time in the market by having financial buffers in place to see them through the ups and downs of the property cycle. And we've seen that with the impact on apartments. Sure, they went down a little bit, but a lot of people have held through these difficult times. Property investment is meant to be boring. Make your investing boring so the rest of your life can be exciting. If you're looking for excitement, go bungee jumping, trail bike riding, or crypto. Don't look for excitement in your property investing. 8, there's more free property information available today than ever before, but much of it is useless. Most market news is not only useless, but harmful to your financial health. The most expensive advice you will get is free advice that's wrong. 9, be careful who you listen to. Rather than listen to the get-rich-quick stories, it's worth listening to those who talk about their mistakes and avoid the property spruikers who don't. Their mistakes are usually much bigger. 10, there's virtually no accountability for the many property gurus and their hotspot predictions. I find it interesting that people who've been wrong about everything for years still draw large crowds of followers to their podcasts, videos, and webinars looking for the next get-rich-quick scheme. Well, people want to get rich quick, and they've seen property as a way to get rich quick. But the way to get rich quick is to sell the bullshit to the masses. The more comfortable an investment number 11 feels, the more likely you're to be taken by marketers or salespeople. I understand many beginning investors looking for what they perceive as a security, but in general avoid rental guarantees or promises of certain returns that usually come at quite some cost. 12. Despite what most would think, the biggest difference between ultra-successful property investors and the rest is not their property strategy or their investment secrets. Both groups only have access to the same investment vehicles, properties, shares, and businesses. What makes the rich people more successful is the way they think, their mindset, and their rich habits. 13. If you have credit card debt and are thinking about investing, stop. I suggest you become financially fluent before you start investing. Otherwise, the significant debt you'll take on buying property will most likely overwhelm you. I like that. That's some very good advice here. 14. Residential real estate is a high-growth, relatively low-yield investment. So don't buy real estate for cash flow. Of course, cash flow is important to keep you in the game, but it's capital growth that will get you out of the rat race. Just because a property goes up in price doesn't mean it's a great investment. In 2021, we experienced a once-in-a-generation property boom that increased the value of almost all properties. This was driven by historically low interest rates and pent-up demand, which eventually led to FOMO, fear of missing out, causing many investors to take shortcuts and buy secondary properties. In my mind, just 5% of the properties on the market are investment grade. The truth about investing, which investors must face, is that just because a property goes up in price doesn't make it a great investment. The problem is, when the market booms, as long as the prices go up, we hardly ever question the rationale behind it. We never asked ourselves, is this price justified by underlying fundamentals? As Warren Buffett wisely said, a rising tide lifts all ships. But when the tide goes out, you see who's swimming naked. 16. There are 3 stages of your property investment journey. All successful investors go through the following 3 phases. Firstly, there is the asset accumulation stage, which requires leverage and owning high-growth properties. Then you slowly reduce your loan-to-value ratio. That's when you can eventually live off your cash machine of properties. Of course, there's also the learning stage, which should come first, but many investors skip this. 17. However many properties you think you'll need to provide cash flow for your retirement, double it. Now you're closer to reality. So my advice for successful investing is to develop a strategic property plan for your investment journey. Then plan your path not to go to plan. then plan for your plan not to go to plan. Knowing that there will be unexpected X factors coming out of the blue to test your resilience. And Michael is the director of Metropole Property Strategies. So let's have a talk about his advice here, everyone. Not bad, to be honest. Not bad at all. I'm going to have a shot of coffee. So certainly some good advice here from someone with extensive experience in property. Some harsh realities too, particularly the one about getting rid of the credit cards, and different to all of the spruikers and people who are just trying to sell us, on a scheme or a system. What do you reckon, everyone? My issue with it is because I'm in the construction industry, it hurts when I see how much a piece of rendered styrofoam on some stud that was knocked up really easily is going for. It physically hurts seeing it, everyone. It's frustrating, but that's the reality of it. What about other alternatives? You can look at the share market, you can invest in REITs, or you can use property you can leverage. That's why people use it. We hear all the horror stories of people investing, interest only, 5 properties, and then they can't rent it out and they're going on the ABC to complain. I think generally he's given some very good advice here. I really like the one about credit card debt. It's quite sensible. And some reality here for people who often want to think property is a get-rich-quick scheme. Remember, we've only had good times. Now, is property going to crash? I wouldn't bet on it, everyone, looking at what's saying here. Just the demand, even just in our little poll here, but also the amount of intervention from our government to use property to stimulate the economy. That precedent has been set. If we see a significant fall, even 10%, 15%, it'll all be dire, it'll be coming down. There's even predictions of 30%, but you're still not going to have housing affordable as people want. There's still going to be some people complaining who can't get in the market. Because Australia isn't like it was 2-3 generations ago anymore. We've got too much. Well, we've changed. What do you reckon? Anyway, guys, I think there's some good suggestions there, some brutal truth that some people may need to hear. And keep that in mind whenever you see a spruiker selling their things. Thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and enjoy the content I find and put together here, there are a few ways you can help out. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. Sign up for SelfWealth or Stake. Use our affiliate links at Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or AussieBroadband. Take care, guys. And I want to point you to this video about a family that couldn't find a property after looking 200 times. Maybe, the first 100 rejections, you need to change your strategy. Just maybe. Maybe the market's a bit hotter than you realize. Take care.